Beyond.
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 Well, that was good. That's it. I guess we're done now.
Beyond.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had it. All right. Thank you,
Slam
everybody.
dunk.
You're a couple of linger
Dun,
boys.
dun, dun,
You yelled at
dun,
us for
dun,
being
dun.
sports boys a little second ago, and then all of a sudden you brought up that basketball
little
moving
second
conversation.
ago.
It's a big day for sports.
Yeah. What's going on in the world of sports?
I have no idea.
What happened to what was special about your pretzels? You read something about your pretzels. I already forgot
Oh,
what it was.
they're rolled gold.
Oh, it's a twist on a classic snack. Add some hummus to your rolled gold tiny twist pretzel breaks.
Oh, I thought it said it like had hummus
Welcome to
baked into
Pretzcast
it.
Beyond.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 465. My name is Max Scoville. I'm joined by Marty Sleva.
Hello.
Brian Altano.
Pretzels.
And Andrew Goldfarb.
People got mad at me because my laptop was too close to the edge last time, so now I have it even closer to the edge.
Wow, are you dangerous bad boy?
Yeah, it's called
IGN's
edging.
Bad boy.
It's called edging, and you won't believe what kids are doing with it.
All right. Yeah, so...
What's going on in the world of Pretz Station?
Oh, the
The Pretz Station 4?
Things are all twisted up.
the salty
and
Pretz
fans
Station.
are salty.
All right, well...
This is not going to be our ham thing. You're already clicking the X.
I'm actually going to
Just
put the
put
pretzels
that, yeah,
on the
put
ground.
that on the
Good,
trash.
please. Thank you. Thank
But
you.
we do have
Stomp
nice
on
warm
them,
cups
pick
of
that
Joe,
up.
thanks to Brian Altano.
All right, don't say cups of Joe. You sound like the Phil and Lil's mom from Rugrats. Anyway, Red Dead Redemption 2, we got the trailer like right after... Did we talk about that last week? I can't even remember what day it is.
We talked about the tease. We didn't talk about the trailer.
Right. So we got the trailer, and it was pretty much still a tease. It was 30 seconds of beautiful, like, gorgeous landscapes. We pretty much know the same amount we did last time this week, or whatever sentence is words.
So I think one of the big takeaways, also that day was just crazy because it was like 6 in the morning was Logan, 7 in the morning was this, and then 8 in the morning was the Switch.
Yep.
Or whatever way it is.
10 a.m. they did announce Shark Tale 2 starring Will Smith.
Yeah.
At 3:30, they announced NPD earnings.
That's true.
But no, I think my big takeaway from the trailer was that if it's anything, the previous Rockstar trailers are indicative of this. Everything's in engine.
Yes.
And so if this is what this game looks like in the wild, like this game is gorgeous. Like holy crap, this game is beautiful.
Yeah, they sort of historically have just shown what the game looks like at the time, and that means it could even and will even get better looking between now and then. But yeah, people were kind of a little I wouldn't say upset, but just kind of disappointed in the fact that it was short. It didn't really show off a lot of characters. I think they're going the sort of movie route where you see a trailer that's sort of like a tone piece. It sets the mood. It shows you the setting. It shows you sort of just sort of what the realm of this universe will be like, and then later down the line you'll get a story trailer. I mean, same thing happened. Look at every Star Wars movie. Like,
yeah, I mean, you can look at the GTA 5 kind of. They put out what 3-4 trailers for that, if that. There was the first one, which was like why'd I move here? I don't know. And everyone's like, is that what's his face?
Is that Ray Liotta?
Yeah, Ray Liotta, yeah.
Everyone like was making all these crazy theories, and there was like there was a lot more to work on there because there was a lot more kind of stuff to pick out. We're like, oh, there's dogs, there's all this stuff. Like Red Dead didn't really reveal a lot of stuff. We didn't really get any characters. There's no close-ups of people really. There's kind of a bunch of people milling around, but like they all just kind of look like random Western folk.
Yeah, and it's definitely less than that GTA thing, but I feel like that is a really good comparison because I feel like that at least set up the world. And we didn't meet Trevor. We didn't know the cast yet when we saw that first trailer.
Sure.
I feel like that world requires more establishment than this does.
Also, like in the universe we live in the world of video games, where an announcement is usually a logo or a teaser countdown to a logo, or like a logo that fades away, or a logo with another logo underneath it,
or a logo that Sega made up for a system that's not called that anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, that was great. Their whole countdown was fantastic. The way they teased it with just by changing colors of their own logos, and then actually showing some sort of key art for, or some basically what could end up being the box art, or became basically the promotional poster, to revealing a minute and a half, 2 minute long teaser trailer type thing. I think it's more than most people would have even guessed for something like this. I thought they were just going to be like, the third day would be, here's another JPEG, the third of our triptych, and here's a release date, and that's it. Instead, we got release date, we got logo, we got platforms.
Did you think it would be? I didn't think it would be as far as OA as it was.
No, didn't we track it that it was like exactly 4 years since the GTA 5 trailer dropped or something?
Yeah, it was
right.
to the week. I believe it was 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you're saying did you think it'd be that far away?
I mean, I didn't think it was going to be this fall, obviously, because it would be pretty ballsy to announce in the middle of October to say, like, it's out in 3 weeks. Like, no one can do that. But I did think it was going to be summer. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to be a full year away.
I mean, if it is.
It might even be further. That's true.
It might even be further.
I like that it's fall because it made everybody run for the hills. Like every other game has to dodge this thing now. Like even Call of Duty is the kind of game where Call of Duty's got to be like, hey, usually this is our month, but damn it.
Was it Alan Wake that came out in the same day as the original Red Dead Redemption?
Oh, yeah.
And it just died. I mean, it was like Fallout coming out when
on Tomb Raider
did. Yeah.
Exactly.
Crazy.
I thought the trailer was really cool. Like, that looks like a world I want to be in. It looks super dense, full of life.
I kind of wanted to touch on this. Like, I think it's awesome to reveal an open world game by showing us the world. Mm-hmm. I think that it's almost disingenuous to be like, here's stuff you're gonna do. Here's stuff you can do, because it sets it up to be like, oh, it's like those old toy commercials where there'd be kids in the backyard and then playing GI Joe stuff. And like, oh, and then you shoot this at the logs and the logs fall over, and it's like, but that doesn't actually really it's not really any freedom. That's kind of like someone being like, here's an exact thing you can try to replicate, but this is more like, hey, it's almost like an unboxing of the world. Like, it's kind of like, here's all the bits and pieces.
So this is also the 3rd Red Dead game, the 15th Rockstar Sandbox game. You're going to be shooting stuff.
Yep.
And interacting with people. You'll be able to hit people. You'll be able to get in whatever vehicles they deem appropriate for the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you'll get to hunt. And all those things in it. Like, if you played a Red Dead game before, you saw that trailer and you said, I'm going to get to kill everything in this trailer. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to get to run across that hill on a horse. You know, like you put it together. So I don't think I needed to explicitly see actions of everything.
But I just think that, like, the selling point of an open world game, it's kind of stupid that we are like 15 years deep into this kind of modern open world sandbox genre, and we're still getting trailers that are like, here's the guy you're gonna get. It's like, yeah, but I'm also gonna do weird side missions. Like, Watch Dogs just dropped a trailer for, like, and Watch Dogs 2, like, I've been okay with the marketing of it so far. Like, I think it's been pretty straightforward. The last one was horse apples, in the parlance of our times. But they just dropped one that was like, Welcome to San Francisco, and it was like kind of showing bits and pieces of the area, and it wasn't so much like, oh, here's the bad guy you're going after, and here's
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's so much more exciting to go in not really knowing what you're getting into, you know?
Well, I think in that case, we've seen so much the bad guy already in Watch Dogs. In fact, like, it's sort of interesting with Watch Dogs in a comparison to see how much of the antagonists we've seen interacting with the protagonist already. Mm-hmm. Like, they've had this is not like a main boss of a game that you see at the very end of the world type of situation. Like, the main character in Watch Dogs 2 is seen interacting with the main villain in Watch Dogs 2 numerous times in those trailers. So to get a piece that's more like in line of like, here's San Francisco as a city and a character, I really appreciated that. I think it's really cool.
I have no idea who the bad guy is in Watch Dogs 2.
Well,
I guess
you
I
should
haven't
read
watched.
He's like
No, I mean, I've watched a ton of Watch Dogs.
Who watches the Watch Dogs trailers? Not you, apparently.
He's like an evil Zuckerberg, basically. Although they also just announced that there's essentially a Martin Shkreli character.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of like a Voss situation where, like, it's sort of, here's the character they're pushing as the bad guy, but there's something else going on there. Anyway, back to Red Dead. Jared wrote a really cool piece on the sort of like just Western. He was like, oh, the biggest character reveal of Red Dead Redemption 2, and of course pissed everyone off because the big character is the Wild West, like it is the setting. And
I told him to massage that headline.
He's not wrong.
I like the headline. I let it fly. Of course you do.
Where were you in the comments section? They needed you.
Oh no! Yeah, it was pretty. People kind of tore him apart in there, but it was like, I thought it was a really great little piece. He was doing side-by-side shots of like bits from the trailer with like famous scenes from like John Ford films.
Yeah, that shot of the searchers where John Wayne's leaving the house and you see the silhouette. That shot's almost taken verbatim in the trailer.
I don't know if he tucked this into his piece, but I told him about a couple years ago when Nintendo launched Wii Sports Resort. They announced that Woohoo Island was their newest character in like the Nintendo universe, and everybody was like, how is an island a character? And they're like, well, he or she ended up in Pilot Wings, ended up in Smash Brothers. Like, they revisited this setting a lot, but it's weird because you don't think of a setting as a character, but that was the first time I've ever heard like a video game manufacturer be like, our setting is a character. So when Jared said that, it immediately resonated with me because I was like, yes, it is. It absolutely is. In the same way Hyrule Field is a character or Liberty City is a character, you know, like it is its own thing. Where if I showed you a face, you'd have the instant recognition of who that person was. And if I showed you Liberty City, you'd be like, I've spent time there too. I understand that.
Yeah. And I thought it was great. And those shots, like, it let me use my imagination to be like, I want to walk through this muddy town and watch a dog fight a bird, and I want to ford a river and start a campfire.
I really love that shot, by the way, because there is that idea that the Wild West is, I mean, the Wild West that we're seeing depicted in the most prominent version of it in pop culture right now is Westworld, which is clean and serene, and there are moments in the outskirts where things get horrific, but for the most part, these are like nice, affluent towns with the
frontier
swinging
land.
saloon doors and prostitutes who are dressed to the nines.
It's also very character centric.
Yeah.
It's not doing those big, huge, sweeping shots of plains and prairies and canyons and all that. There's a few here and there, but it's like there is such a kind of a weird. I mean, there's a DNA to Western fiction that goes back to before it was even fiction, back when it was just kind of present tense. I did a thing I put up on Twitter, just side by side shots of Albert Bierstadt paintings. He was this like late 1800s, early 1900s painter who was part of the American Luminism movement, which was basically like it was kind of in a weird way. It was when the westward expansion movement was happening, and basically people were like, well, we're America, goddammit, we should take over the rest of America for ourselves. Everybody get a covered wagon and a banjo and a horse and a pony and get yourself out there and kill yourself an Indian and build a house. And it's like, maybe don't do that, but whatever. But people would go out there and they'd paint these beautiful landscapes and they'd take them back east, and rich people would be like, the canyons, I shall hang this up on my mantelpiece. And there was a whole like movement of this.
It was effectively one of the first like kind of modern realizations of people who are specifically being like light painters in the crappy way like Thomas Kinkade does when you're in a mall with your parents around Christmas or something like that. But like sort of showing off how lighting affected landscape, and there was just incredible at that.
But it's also it was the expanse of America was kind of an unseen thing, like the plains and the mountains and everything. Like people sort of seen that, but up until that point, like European landscape painting was much more kind of closely pushed together, and there were people around. So to come to this kind of almost like no pun intended blank canvas of a landscape to capture it, people were doing that, and that's kind of, I mean, it's the visual part of Manifest Destiny.
I would have loved to get a hold of those paintings back in the day when they're getting shipped over to Europe to show people what the world looked like, and just draw like 90-foot tall wolves everywhere. Oh yeah, they got a huge like Clifford the Big Red Wolf problem. It's real nuts.
That's Gary the Timberman. He goes around and
don't go to America. You're gonna hate it if you hate tall wolves.
It's weird because I know very, very little about this era, like actually, like historically. But I watched a ton of Westerns. Like I know a lot about Westerns, and I was really happy that Jared included a shot from The Searchers in his piece, because the minute you see the guy on the horse like silhouetted against that backdrop, like that super iconic shot of John Wayne is like immediately the first thing I thought
and
of.
It also evoked things like There Will Be Blood and like
the oil rig scene, right? Specifically,
totally.
Which I love. Just like that dark night shot of oil rigs on fire was incredible.
Well, even to your point earlier, like even just the shot of the dog fighting the turkey or whatever, like it's just so gross and gritty.
There's something about like that gray mud everywhere and how poor and infested that area looks that really resonated with me more than, I mean, as much as I love, like it's like when I think about Ocarina of Time, like I said before, Hyrule Field, right? It's that big, expansive, beautiful place. You think about, it reminds you of middle school or high school or whenever you played it. But then you also have to think about like the weird kind of like the parts in that game where things go dark and it's haunted and horrible. And I think a setting like that, I mean, we're way ahead, cart before the horse here, no pun intended, but for something like Undead Nightmares, I want to see that getting dropped right into that. Or like you're walking around oil rigs on fires and there's zombie John Marstons running around.
But it's not even aside from that, it's just like realistically, right? Like the way that I think, like if you walk around New York City or like Liberty City in GTA 4, like it's fairly polished. You're not getting into like, there are no homeless people. There are no, like, you're not getting into like the grit of a city. And I think in a Western, it's even more so, where like Red Dead did a really good job establishing setting, but like the actual grit, like even just like the, like realistically, like people don't shower, everyone's gross, everything smells awful, there's mud everywhere.
That's a really cool point. Like one thing that bugs me about like fantasy stuff is so often it is like, it's just whimsical lore. It's like, oh, these filigreed tapestries of petticoats and whatnot, and you get all these fancy stuff, and then it should be disgusting. It should be like Game of Thrones. It should be like the Hound fighting people over a piece of chicken. And you get all this post-apocalyptic stuff, which is kind of what things should be like if people don't have enough resources, and you get Fallout, and it's very kind of on the nose, like, oh, you're scrounging for stuff. But like the Wild West is a perfect example of like, oh, people have like crappy broken down houses because they're at the mercy of the elements and disease and
I mean, just I've never really thought about Rockstar as being able to master something that would evoke like the sort of horror element of things. But imagine like being in one of these miserable ass towns and it's night and you're hunting wolves and lightning's hitting and all of a sudden you're like, there's a problem here. Or
Yeah.
you're near those oil rigs
Yeah.
and you're fighting a bear.
Or look at like stuff like Donner Party or Ravenous or The Revenant, like things where it's.
I got major Revenant vibes from those wide sweeping shots of the rivers, and it was like totally cool.
I mean, I want to touch on this a bit, but like,
think you could sleep in a horse?
I hope so. That'd be great.
Nice hot dead horse.
And I thought they were cool looking on the outside. But no, like I think The Revenant's really an interesting Western because it's like a survival horror Western, you know? Like it's got the kind of trappings of trappers, but also like, it's you're like, oh, that man's wearing a cowboy hat. I understand the basics here. I understand the setting. Yeah. And I'm really excited to see if Red Dead kind of does a little bit more in like the less familiar Western stuff, because there are these things that are just total like cliche tropes. Like, when I say Viking, you think of a guy with horns on his hat, except they didn't wear those.
Yeah.
That's just one of those things that we get used to.
Yeah.
So like there are these weird kind of tropes in like Western culture. Like I was watching Westworld with Jen the other night, and she's like, "Is that a Chinese lady?" And I was like, "Yeah." There's like there were like tons of like Asian people built. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I guess you never see them in like Western stuff."
Yeah.
And it's like that's one of those weird kind of things where they just paint over it or forget about it, or they're like, let's add more gunslingers and ponchos.
I mean, the whole like Orient Express thing was of like the train robberies and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's really interesting.
I'm not looking necessarily for like political correctness or historical accuracy. I just want a different perspective. I want something that's a little bit unfamiliar. Like
and that's what I like about this. I mean, like we've talked about this before, but in terms of open world games, we get a lot of them, but they all sort of fall into the same 4 or 5 different kind of buckets.
Exactly.
And I like where this is going, and I like
Custer's
the idea.
Revenge.
Yeah. Exactly. I like the idea of going to playing a Rockstar game again that like doesn't have a radio and doesn't have cars in it and isn't in a bustling city. Like I think like you were saying before about Liberty City and Vice City and everything they've done after that, especially in GTA 5, you have these big sprawling landscapes, but you never truly feel lost in them because there's always like a skyline in the corner, right? In the horizon, you turn over and all of a sudden it's downtown Los Angeles. But just being deep in the woods or across some huge plain and being like, where am I?
Yeah,
like this is going to be a huge game, and the only way to get around it will be a horse.
Lucy was just tweeting about that. She's playing Red Dead 1 right now, Red Dead Redemption now, and was tweeting about that like getting in the back of a horse and just running is like awesome.
Yeah.
In a way that like being in a car and driving through a city doesn't quite evoke the same.
They got it. That was like one of the first times a video game really was just like nailed it.
And you don't get that in Assassin's Creed. I mean, there are Assassin's Creed games where you ride on a horseback, right? But it's like those are tunnels between towns.
Yeah.
The main hubs in those worlds are the bustling cities. That's where all the check marks are. Same thing with Zelda. Like you look at even the most open world Zelda games are funneling you from area to area. Look at even like something like Twilight Princess, which I played again this year. Think about these like big horseback games. Max and I did a comparison on Up at Noon this week of just like looking at Zelda and Red Dead side by side. These are 2 games that are going to be launching within 6-7 months of each other, and they're both bustling open world games about adventure, horseback riding, and hunting.
I think they're going to launch within about a month of each other.
You think so? I mean, that'll be a cool fall.
Yeah.
Like I'm really into that. So
I want to. This is kind of an interesting thing. Like going back to the landscape painting thing, like there's this whole kind of approach in art school where you have to learn how to like paint the basics,
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe this is Rockstar kind of pushing that further. Like they figured out how to make an open world. If you think about it, like Red Dead Redemption came out at a point where like really properly captured nature in video games hadn't been done right. Like there's always going to be games where you're running around in the woods and stuff, but it's like a video game level disguised as the woods. Like I remember like early versions of, like Snake Eater was kind of one of the first times where they're like, you're in the nature and it doesn't really make sense. It's not exactly linear. And then Red Dead was before Skyrim, which was one of the first ones to really try to tackle that. And like, I feel like Witcher 3 did an incredible job.
Yeah,
you had like Far Cry and stuff, but like, it's a very subtle like iteration on like on the medium. Like they're pushing it being like, oh, like here are bushes that are a game mechanic. Like you have to get in there, and like it's kind of crazy to think in the last 5 years we've gotten these not really leaps and bounds, but more like refinements of.
Well, think about the way they approach cities, right, as living, breathing entities, and the people that connect them and populate them. Every inch of Grand Theft Auto 5 is packed with insane details, like folds on people's T-shirts, guys putting out cigarettes. There's a middle finger button. There's all this stuff you can do. I don't know if you have to censor that when I put that up in here. I don't care. Watch the video to see if they censored that.
No one has time for that.
So strip all that away and go, well, Rockstar's obviously they want to make a game packed with details, but they don't have broken windows anymore, and they don't have horns honking, and they don't have radios, and they don't have cars.
Yeah.
Where are they going to pack all that in? They're going to put that in the way a blade of grass bends, and the way like a firefly dances around a fire.
Or that sun hits a tree line.
Yeah, like they're going to pack that into lighting in the way that an animal breathes when it gets killed. Like there's so much here that we're going to be spending the next year sort of just like unpacking, and I can't wait for it.
GTA 5 is built, the core tenets of GTA 5 are built on a 360 and a PS3.
Yep.
So whereas this is not. This is free from those shackles.
They were also built on Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like, I mean, if we want to get an idea of what GTA 6 is going to be like, it's probably going to have it's going to be rooted in Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's really exciting. But it's also like it's cool that we get to be like, oh, look at these trees, look at these foxes and jackrabbits.
I'm excited to see the size of the world too. Like I assume someone's done this. I haven't really been paying much attention, but I would assume someone went back and found that leaked map, that supposed leaked map that had like New Bordeaux and all that stuff on it, and tried to see if we can get any indication yet if there's anything that ties in, because like that map looked really big, and it looked like there were like distinct areas.
Oh yeah,
cool.
The theory kicking around so far is that it's this sort of prequel sequel hybrid, which tells the story of John Marston before and after, and maybe years after, maybe months after. So I'm okay with all of that as long as it makes sense in the world.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm curious to see at the end of, spoilers for Red Dead Redemption, I guess, or not a very light spoilers for Red Dead Redemption. The end of it, you control someone else.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see if you revisit that in this at all. Like if it really is a prequel sequel hybrid, or if there's a framing device,
or
if there's
again,
something.
we don't know. Are those 7 people the 7 people you're controlling? Are they the 7 people who are hunting you? Are the 7 people you're hunting?
That. Like that seems insane. Like I didn't even I think 3 playable characters in GTA felt it was fine. I liked it, but I feel like I was happier just having one protagonist in the previous games. Like I think the novelty of switching was cool at first, but like it wore off very quickly for me. I think 7 would be overwhelming.
I think if the prequel sequel hybrid was to be a thing that actually wove itself into the open world and made sense, that it wasn't like confusing, you had like literal time travel. Look at GTA 5. Look at the way that game single player started, where it starts with this heist, right? With all these characters are on it, something horrible happens, the story begins.
Yep.
And that is contained in a compartmentalized space that I don't even remember if I can identify where on the actual map that happens.
It's not.
Because it's not.
Yeah, it's in Jersey. Right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the East Coast.
Yeah. It's just an area they built for basically a narrative platform to jump off into the open world. And you always have that in the back of your head, being like, these guys did some horrible together, but here they are, and now here's the open world. So I think that's one way to do it, is you designate an area and you go from there.
It's very un-Rockstar, but could they do like what Battlefield 1 is doing right now? Could it be like you fulfill someone's story and maybe you can still drive around as them, but maybe everybody only if there are 7 characters, like maybe everyone has their own story.
That'd be cool. Because I mean, we've had that kind of like Freaks and Strangers, and that whole approach where it's like they're not side quests exactly, they're just characters who kind of resurface. It'd be really interesting if you're sort of switching between them, like you've got different roles. But no, going back to the passage of time, that's always been like a sticking point in games, in the same way that perspective has, and I feel like they nailed perspective with GTA 5. Like, you're switching between 3 characters and they're doing things that all make sense to that character. Like, they chopped up player control to make it so they can do all the fun weird stuff they want to do, but it makes sense. So like, maybe in this case, I do like the idea of it being a prequel sequel hybrid, or just it takes place at different points in time. Like Mafia kind of touches on that, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe they're going to do stuff with characters, or maybe they're moved on with that. Like you see that with Rockstar games where they introduce a mechanic and they frame stuff around it, like the like investigation mechanics in
L.A.
Noire. Like they were testing some stuff out, and some of it they kept, like some of it they clearly didn't.
I feel like the player swapping control aspect of Grand Theft Auto 5 was specifically tuned for the sort of kind of 3 different ways people play those games. And trying to find a way to shoehorn them in. Like I'm the kind of person that like always likes when Rockstar games have jetpacks and pogo sticks and they get crazy and over the top, because I'm like, it's a big dumb open world game, let's have fun with it. So that's why I appreciated Trevor being like, oh, this guy's insane. Like he does the insane crazy stuff.
And I like the Franklin, like the slow-mo driving stuff, because like I actually like I'm awful at driving those games, but I don't mind driving in those games.
Well, I'm also like the ego and the super ego, or it's the monkey see monkey, the stupid monkey. There's even that shot of them.
The thing I want out of this game more than anything is like a lot of people hate Mexico in Red Dead Redemption, kind of myself included, but it at least feels so distinctly different than what came before it, and I like that. I like the idea of like dramatic shifts in setting or mood or tone.
Me too.
So, or in time, and not in time in terms of like 20 years, but in the way The Last of Us has 4 seasons.
Yes, totally.
And how, like, I want to know what our Colorado area is like in June and what it's like in January.
100%. And like, sorry, but Persona like does a really good job of like taking place over a year, and when you revisit locations, they're covered in snow, or they're not, or things change, or your outfit changes because it's winter or summer. Like, I like that in games. I like feeling the passage of time. So
we have
I totally agree with that.
what is it? Dynamic weather systems, but they're never like they're never like seasons. They're like, oh, it's snowing. No, it's not. Never mind.
Well, because it's harder to do in an open world game.
Sure.
You know,
but I mean, if you're shifting in terms of like big, huge,
like The Last of Us is a highly scripted game.
Sure.
Persona is as well.
Yeah, and you move seasons when you hit a checkpoint.
You'll see seasons in Red Dead Online for sure. I mean, that's the thing. We will be talking about Red Dead Redemption or Red Dead 2 Online in 2020. Whoever is hosting the show, if it's all still us.
What year is it? 2016?
Yeah, it's out 2017. In 2020, we will be
Yeah.
on IGN.com updating new things that got added to that game.
That's
they will
true.
be probably completely ridiculous. By then, they'll have motorcycles and
Penny farthing bicycles,
steampunk horses and
sticks.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this is a thing. This is a big thing.
So speaking of games that actually came out this year, are coming out this year, Titanfall 2 is out next week,
Yeah.
is it?
on Friday.
We've got
Friday.
our review in progress is up. A bunch of other reviews are up. EA is 2 for 2 with shooters this year. People are really liking it. We don't have a score on ours yet, but Brandon Tyrell wrote up a thing about the single player, and he said lots of nice stuff about it.
Really,
I feel
really
like
likes
they're
it.
putting this game out to die, though. It's just like coming out so
Between
soon
Battlefield
before
and
Battlefield.
Titanfall. And Call of Duty.
Yeah, like Battlefield and Call of Duty, I just feel like no matter how good or bad Titanfall is, I just feel like it gets washed away. Like, I feel like even if it was awful, like, people wouldn't even remember that it was awful because
This should have been a February or March game.
Exactly. Like,
The,
I don't know. I don't know
the
why.
sort of the shooter crowd on consoles sort of pivots towards what's happening and what's big, and people kind of go. People play with their friends, right? So if all of your friends are playing Battlefield 1 at the same time, that's where they are. They're just getting their sea legs with that game. Maybe they'll leave it for Call of Duty, but they're not going to leave it for Titanfall.
I don't even know if they're going to leave Overwatch for Titanfall, let alone
well, who knows
Battlefield
about that?
and Call of Duty. Like, it just,
I think those are slightly
Yeah.
different crowds there.
Well,
But
the other thing it's got going for it is a single player campaign that is a campaign proper, which is this is not competing with Battlefield. This is competing with Call of Duty. Like at this point, like for a while,
Single character story.
For a while, like EA was being like, yeah, Battlefield's our answer to Call of Duty, but it's a lot different and they'd always kind of shoot themselves in the foot with that.
Battlefield 1 pivoted so hard away from Call of Duty. Like,
Yeah.
it is the diametric opposite
I
of
appreciate
Infinite Warfare.
that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Titanfall is a little bit more kind of recognizably futuristic and
Yeah.
fighting these robot boys. But I played a bit of it this morning. The single player is like, it almost feels kind of old school, and it's like it's got character and it's kind of goofy, and it's not like super complex. Like the wall running's really fun. The shooting feels good. The platforming is like. It's super duper decent. It's like
weird.
it should not work.
Always surprises me. I mean, if you look at the long history of first-person platforming games, 9 out of 10 times it fails. I mean, I think the first one I ever played was Turok 64, which was just a
Dreadful.
absolute mess.
Yeah.
Like, anytime you had to jump on anything in that game was impossible. It's really cool to see them get it right, and I think it's because there's a natural weight to sort of the way you deploy your character in the air in that game, where it just feels like you're like, I have an idea where I'm going to land, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
every movement, everything you do in Titanfall, and I haven't played Titanfall 2 yet at all, but even in Titanfall 1, everything feels perfect. to me.
Deliberate,
Like, I think like everything you were doing, like I land where I thought I was going to land.
Yeah,
Like when I run on something, I know how I can
And
run off
that's
it.
part of that's physics, part of that's control, and part of that is level design.
Yep.
Of smart level design, of knowing like how to wall run, where to wall run, giving visual cues. Like that's what made Mirror's Edge 1 awesome.
It is to backtrack real quick, it is a little strange to see. I mean, they are completely different games, probably more so than any two first-person shooters in history. But it is a little weird to see one publisher put out two high-end AAA
A week apart.
shooting games a week apart. I remember there was a year where Ubisoft put out, what did they put out? It was like an Assassin's Creed game within 7 days of another big-ish.
Splinter Cell or
Was
something.
it
Maybe,
like,
yeah, or
it
maybe
might
a
have
Far
been.
Cry
It was like a
game.
Far Cry.
They
and
did
Assassin's
Far Cry
Creed
in
within 7
December.
days.
Far Cry 3 and 4 would have been
Yeah.
probably just a couple weeks from
Yeah.
the PC game. Yeah.
Yeah, it always surprises me to see that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but in any case, all the stuff you said about movement, totally true still. What's cool though is seeing it used in a single player like campaign sense. The level design is really interesting because it has to function both as kind of straightforward shooter for man on the ground, and then for all the crazy wall running platforming stuff, and then again for when you're in your Titan, which means that the scale has to totally work on all these senses without feeling like overwhelming and daunting.
So let me ask you something, because I absolutely adore single player games. Predominantly that is the way I will play this. Does the single player in this game feel like you are running through multiplayer environments?
No.
Or does it feel like it was specifically designed as a single player?
No, it is
game?
a single player level design.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
That's such good news.
It is not at all like it wouldn't work structure wise.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think I've really hit. I think I've played like maybe an hour. Basically, also you're gonna love this. It's got this very Mega Man system to it, where when you fight sort of a boss, like you fight these kind of different like, robot masters basically, and you kick their asses and then you get their loadout, and it's like,
oh, that's cool.
It's totally like if this had been attached to the first Titanfall, that game would have been way more of a hit, I think, because it does exactly what campaigns did, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, where they were like, let's give you a crash course in all the mechanics and let you play with all the toys so you know what they do and how to use them, but let's frame it in this way that kind of makes sense. And in this case, you're like, I don't know, you're like, oh, here's this evil, this mean mercenary guy, and he's got a scary robot, and you got to fight his robot, and then after you go over to his robot's corpse, and you're like, ooh, a fun new gun, and they're like, press start and you can equip it, and you're like, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah,
this has been a really good year for PlayStation gamers to justify waiting for
right.
Like,
yeah, right.
Usually it's like, we get it first and we get it best and it's the best looking, and we get exclusive DLC, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, by the way, I beat Tomb Raider this weekend and it was awesome.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I'm so glad I waited on that too.
I am not glad I waited, because I'm so happy I played that last year.
Yeah.
I wish more of us had.
It sucks
I
that
think it would have won Game of the Year.
They fragment it. I mean, it can be, it's Game of the Year for 2 years running. Whatever. But
now we have like weird policies with that here, because I mean, I was talking to people, even like Jose was like, my Game of the Year of 2 years in a row is Destiny. I was like, I'm not talking about Destiny with you in 2016.
Almost like Game of the Year is a completely arbitrary, nonsensical thing, just like numerical review scores
or years.
Years are crap. Why don't they make the metric, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Franklin with your lamp black oil.
Royale with cheese.
Yeah. Thanks,
what?
Lisa Lampanelli.
What?
Huh? Wow. All right. Were we talking about Titanfall? Are we done, or do you want to keep?
I think we're good. I mean, the embargo's up Friday.
We'll talk more next week when I'm sure we'll have played more.
Yeah, Max and I are doing a big roundup on all the reviews. So far on Up at Noon on Thursday, we're also going to play the first 15 minutes on our pre-show, so tune in 11:45 on AM on Thursday, leading into 12
Pacific time.
Pacific time.
AM?
Whatever.
11. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
15
Welcome to
minutes
clocks.
prior to noon.
Get so mad?
Yeah. AM. You incredulous.
I've been watching a lot of Lisa Lampanelli specials.
Stop doing that. She's awful. Anyway,
God,
one
what kind
last
of
thing
pretzel
I want
podcast
to
is
say
this?
about Titanfall is it reminds me, in addition to Mega Man, of Blaster Master.
What?
Oh God, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's that
incredible.
old game where you'd be in a little funny roller skate car, and you go around. And you could make the car jump and hop and shoot.
So
and
no
stuff.
one will ever beat this game.
But basically,
You shoot any frogs?
the whole thing is you can get out and you can be this little man and run around, and there's no big. Well, there's actually these big avatar cat things you got to fight. You can like that part. You shoot them right in the face.
Good, big fan.
Yeah,
Of shooting those cats in the face.
Yeah, but basically,
I hate
like
that movie.
There's stuff that's super hard to fight when you're on the ground by yourself, but when you're in a robot, you're like, I don't care, I'll step on you, And then I made this comparison with God, what was it called? Lost Planet 3, I think. But that game was like hot garbage. But it was the same idea.
Yeah,
of like
we had mechs.
Suddenly a game completely changes when you are 4 times your size and super overpowered. And I love that idea of like a game within a game. So.
You kind of owe our entire audience an apology for evoking Lost Planet 3 there.
Sorry for bringing up that terrifying Dungeness crab eating simulator.
Do you remember
Lisa Lampanelli?
Do you remember when they? Do you remember what the PR campaign for that game? By the way, they put gigantic blocks of ice.
That's right.
On the street in San Francisco, and they put one around the corner from me on Haight Street when I used to live over there. And they put a copy of the game in a huge block of ice and told nobody. And people on Haight Street who are confused at everything because marijuana were walking down the street and they were like, what's that? And then like a couple of people started throwing rocks at it and chipping away at it. But most people just let it sit there and melt out to get this big wet copy of Lost Planet 3.
Really?
Yeah.
I never heard about that.
Oh
That's
my God,
nuts.
it's utterly insane.
Man, there was
Wow.
a couple years span, and then for for Mass Effect 3, they like shot it into the woods, and Dustin got
they
put
put it in a
Alfredo.
tree.
They dropped them. Yeah, they.
Yeah, Destin and Tim and Alfredo, Tim Geddes and Alfredo Diaz went into like
The woods.
some canyon.
They had to like climb a tree, and
It was like a
Dustin
balloon
lost his arm.
What about Homefront when THQ dumped like like 10,000 red balloons in the sea.
They shot a sea lion right in the face. With
Yeah, they did.
They were like, "This is an authentic North Korean gun. See, it could happen."
God, that was
And
unbelievable.
now the Dillinger escape plan
that
will
seemingly
play.
was all within a year of each other.
Yeah.
Just
I think
the
that-
year
And
of
then
bad
there was
decisions.
all the
think it's-
Dante's Inferno marketing was around then too.
Is that actual
I
money?
think it's like Cabin Fever, but for developers. Like they ship a game and they're like, what should we do? Let's just shoot it into space.
I don't even think it's that. I think the developers are like, well, we're done. The marketing team is like, all right, let's do this.
All right,
And
we're
they
gonna send brass
dial it up.
knuckles to everyone. Oh,
Do you
wait,
remember
we
that
need them
time
back 'cause
where
that's illegal.
Bethesda made a guy in Boston make a house out of trash?
I mean, he was
Wait,
going to do it
Fallout?
anyway.
Yeah,
but they
he
just
made
were
it-
like, can you make your Squall Fallout? Brandon?"
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that the marketing guys are just these snarling cocaine demons who are just locked in a boardroom for
Yeah.
like the 4-year development cycle.
And they're always the guys that have no idea what the game's
Yeah,
about.
They're like, I've spent the last 4 years throwing crumpled up paper in the wastebasket. I'm basically the Larry Bird of waste basketball.
Well, and
Here's the thing. So there's this new game called Homefront. Let's just get a ton of balloons and just dump them in the sea. That'll teach him.
And then there was last summer when a man in Krakow made love to a harpy for The Witcher.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. They glued a narwhal to a woman, and
Yep.
they were like, "We've caught the real mermaid."
Yeah, they sent him in to hell for Doom.
They gave Obama a copy of The Witcher 2, and he's like, "Oh, that's great, but I have a Wii, thanks." True story.
There's a Wii family over here.
Real quick, I want to touch on this. This sucks. I've said I want to touch on this a million times. I want to touch on all the things, but I'm sick, which is bad. Skyrim Special Edition.
I have a breaking update for this. By the way.
A breaking-
I'll get to first and then
All right.
Time for Andrew Colfar.
firmware.
Firmware update. Oh, we got a firmware update today, by the way. It makes things more stable
Okay,
and better. That's true.
great job.
Wait, what
Idea.
was your update?
Well, you can
Okay.
intro the story and then the number. Destin sent me a new number.
Okay. So Skyrim Special Edition, after much ado, the PS4 version is going to be getting mod support. Initially, Bethesda posted on their mods website the amount of mods that will be available for Xbox One and PS4. And for Xbox One, initially, because of the amount of storage cap or whatever, you only have 1 gig versus 5 gigs or whatever. Xbox One had 65 mods available, including some wacky, silly stuff, like the kind of stuff you think about when you hear the word Skyrim mods. Meanwhile, the PS4 version has 10 of them, and they're signposts.
A larger house.
Yeah.
There's now lore on the loading screens, and you can have a beehive, and you're like, okay.
And Destin said they just updated the page, and now Xbox One has 68, but PS4 is up to 11.
Okay. Wow. So this will improve, and I mean, these are honestly really crappy mods. I think we're gonna.
I mean, a lot of the Xbox ones are really good. And
Yeah, and
they're
you
either
can-
really good, fixes for the games where you can enter towns without there's no load screen in the
there's no
towns.
dwarven railroads
Yeah,
or whatever. Yeah.
there's the Thomas the Tank Engine weird stuff.
You can bring outside assets into the Xbox One. So on Xbox, you're just getting a better experience with mods. And we don't know. Bethesda put up that very somewhat passive aggressive thing that was about.
I would
Sony.
straight up call that aggressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where they were hey, we can't do this because of Sony, and then I guess they made nice, and it's on to Sony platforms
Yeah.
now, kind of. But it does seem like it's not the full experience.
Well, it
And-
sounds like the data cap is the thing that's screwing this whole situation,
Yeah.
it's
right?
partially
Yeah,
the data
1
cap
gig,
and
right?
partially the PS4 is just a more closed platform, and they don't want these third-party assets on there.
Yeah. I mean, they had a a Nintendo emulator, N64 emulator on the Xbox store at one point for a second.
It got through certification. They ended up pulling it, but it was live on the store.
It's because a lot of
Hilarious.
stuff can go up on the Windows 10 store and then make its way over to Xbox.
And
as
so
I
this-
understand it.
Meanwhile, you can spend $7.99 on a dead skeleton Santa Claus PS4 theme, no problem.
Yeah.
Max and I
Weird
did a whole
hamburger
video
theme.
about all the themes on
really
PS4.
bad.
Yeah.
They're totally okay with that.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
bootleg ass Lisa Frank paintings.
so-
Maybe hire somebody who's got two functioning eyes to
Yeah.
look at them before they go up.
Exactly.
And be maybe this shouldn't cost money.
I want to meet the guy that's in charge of the theme store on PS4. By the way, he's
I wanna
probably the
meet him and
biggest
just
junkie.
Punch him in the face.
And so we don't
I love
know.
that one of the Skyrim mods is literally it is extra map markers on the Vampire DLC, which is basically all set in this weird shadow realm that is really hard to navigate. So it's good news, we added map markers. It's
That's just That
I don't get
been
to
the
see
game.
like a breast or anything.
Yeah.
Like that sucks.
If you want to see a breast, head on over to the PS4 theme store. There's plenty of them. Tiger tots.
Yeah.
That's the number one theme right now.
Breast of us.
$17.99 for tiger tots.
My favorite
big tiger
my
with
favorite,
even bigger tots.
My favorite PS4 theme is one is just a large picture of a bikini woman's cans, and every time you do anything on your PS4, it plays a machine gun sound effect.
That was really bad. Really bad.
Oh, that was
all of your icons are replaced with pot leaves.
No, I'm not kidding you.
We
We literally did a 15-minute Let's Play of the PS4 theme store, and it's abysmal what's going on over there.
It's real bad.
But again, we don't know. Maybe the PS4 version runs better than the Xbox One version. We don't know. But also, this would just kind of suck if this is the second time PlayStation owners have been boned by Skyrim.
Well, we should. So this segues into a
Boned by
rapid fire
Skyrim
question.
is the name of my upcoming memoir.
It's actually a great theme on the PS4 store.
Yeah.
This segues into something I think we're going to talk about during rapid fire, but we should also mention briefly that Bethesda's not sending out advanced copies of Skyrim.
Yeah.
So
Why don't we talk about it on the rapid fire?
No, let's just talk about it right now.
We can talk about it rapid fire. I'm just saying really quick to Marty's point.
So we'll segue into that. You want to finish your thing?
Well, yeah, I was saying like Marty's right that like right now it seems like PS4 owners are getting screwed over, but like we don't have the game yet, so he's right that like maybe it does run better on PS4 overall. We don't know.
That would be a new thing for Skyrim on a Sony console.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
For sure.
If you remember playing Skyrim on a PS3 and having to leave all your swords in one room.
I mean,
too many books.
That's why I never finished Skyrim, because I got like 6 hours into that game on PS3, and I was like, well,
That said, Fallout 4 ran better on PS4 than it did on Xbox One, from my experience personally. So maybe
I had a lot of very bad Fallout 4 glitches on PS4.
Yeah, that was a hot mess.
Oh,
of
the
a
dog
game
got
anyway.
stuck in the staircase?
I mean, I couldn't continue many times in Fallout 4.
Paul Yates asked, in light of Bethesda's recent announcement about reviews, are game reviews still relevant? So let's get into that announcement real quick. Gary Steinman from the Bethesda blog just put up, formerly Ubisoft, friend of the show, put up a post on Bethesda's blog today, basically saying that just like Doom, reviewers are not getting early copies. They will get that game a day before. That includes YouTubers, media in general, basically. They said, earlier this year, we released Doom. We sent review copies to arrive the day before launch, which led to speculation about the quality of the game. Since then, Doom has emerged as a critical and commercial hit and is now one of the highest-rated shooters of the past few years. Suck it. I added that. With the upcoming launches of Skyrim Special Edition and Dishonored 2, we will continue our policy of sending media review copies one day before release. While we will continue to work with media, streamers, and YouTubers to support their coverage, both before and after release, we want everyone, including those in the media, to experience our games at the same time. We also understand that some of you may want to read reviews before you make your decision, and if that's the case, we encourage you to wait for your favorite reviewers to share their thoughts.
I mean,
so what do you guys think?
Don't pre-order games. Honestly, and it sucks because I'm a big nerd for collectibles, and I like to pre-order stuff to get, number one, in case they're limited editions very rarely are limited, but they are sometimes. So if you don't pre-order it, you're kind of screwed on launch day.
Well, that's the big problem with the hook of pre-order these days is you can't just tell people don't pre-order games, because if you're a diehard fan of a franchise, you're missing out on stuff. You're missing out on early access,
on
you're missing
bonuses.
out on DLC, bonuses.
Well, that's what I mean. That's my thing is if you want that special edition, if you want those bonuses, then yeah, you kind of have to roll the dice. But if you're buying a $60 normal retail version of a game, just wait.
Yeah.
Because at this point, you don't even have to go to a store anymore. You can read the review, and if it's good, just set it to download in your PS4 and you're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
you can do that from your desk.
This move to me, it makes it harder on us because it does. Not to whine, it's fine. We'll get over it. But it does make it sort of a race to start reviewing it the second it comes in, which makes it hard to be objective and play it the way fans will. But then it also sucks for everybody out there. It sucks for you guys because you don't know. There are games that look like they're going to be really good, and then we play them and they suck. And they get
I think
bad
when this becomes an issue for us, it's less the issue of we don't get to play games early as the liberal media or whatever the hell. But it's more it's excellent reader service to have a review of a product up on day one. That becomes harder and harder to do, obviously, with online servers, with multiplayer. That's why so many of our big fall reviews are reviews in progress. But even then, you can sort of see what the thermometer is on this kind of stuff. You're
and
this is getting a good review.
You play it differently. If we get it 2 days early and we have to play 30 hours in 2 sittings, that will eventually impact the way you think about a game, as opposed to having a week or 2 weeks to play a gigantic open world game and actually play it the way other people will
I
play
think
it.
for the average person who has $60 to $120 a quarter to spend on this hobby, you want to make sure that money goes in the right direction. And I've been burned plenty of times by stuff where I'm just oh, the hype is through the roof on this. Even working in the media, I'll pre-order something, I'll put $60 down on something, even just talking to people at the office, before even realizing that it's not for me. And sometimes you need to read about stuff. You need to see videos on it.
Like the order.
You want to see another thing we do like graphic comparison videos. It's more than just the review.
Yeah.
Like it's our wiki guide gets.
That's a big one. I was just thinking about like if we hadn't had Fallout early, like Fallout's one of those things where you want information to supplement it with.
Yeah.
Like and we had people like Jared Petty like just picking away at it and like really just getting in. And you could also shell out $20 for the Prima strategy guide, like it's 1998 again or whatever. But
well, it's also like I just completed Arkham VR, which I adored, and it's a $20 game. I finished it in an hour and 15 minutes. I really liked it. After I beat it, it gave me the option to go back and collect Riddler trophies, which they range between like fun little challenges to some of the most obtuse nonsense I've ever seen in my entire life, where you literally have to duck underneath like your own body on the floor to peek around corners to find.
How'd that man get a trophy in your body?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But like it's just like underneath the platform you're standing on that you can't see with the conventional means. And day one, I
put a trophy in my ass again.
Another trophy in my ass. Martha,
get that out of there.
And on day one, our wiki team had a guide up for that game, and I was playing it. And I was like, "This is really cool!" Like, I beat this game in an hour and a half. I immediately went back in for trophies, and we had stuff there.
Man, I just thought VR guides in VR is gonna suck because you're gonna be like, I gotta take my hat off, and now I gotta read the guide, and now I gotta put my hat back on.
Oh, it sucks. I'm already doing it.
Yeah.
It sucks. Honestly, and I'll get into this, but real quick, like PSVR is really cool because it has that button in the front where you just click and pull your visor out. You can look down at your phone and then slide it back in without having to like take it off, take it on.
That's a really
like,
smart bit of engineering.
Just a little heads up if that's what if you're playing VR games and you're looking at a guide. Another thing you can do is pull up the guide in your web browser.
That's pretty cool.
So you can hit the home button and just have everything without taking your helmet off.
Yeah, it's inside your own head.
Or you could hire an intern to scream at you.
Yeah. Get a human person to just yell.
Hire one of those children from where they live and get.
Where's Edward's trophy?
Give him some golden pieces to read you the wiki.
So I honestly I think this is where this is going. All in all, I think that's
totally. No, I think let's be realistic here. Like games media is dying out in its conventional form. Like the stuff that we do, the entire review score, that whole system is entirely rooted in those magazines we used to read at the supermarket, like it's all kind of framed around stuff like Nintendo Power and Game Pro and EGM.
I think even with the new movement of media, which is Twitch streaming and YouTubers, I think this impacts them tremendously as well. Because there's a lot of people that watch somebody like Angry Joe and they want to see his like first take on something, or like a launch day live stream, or even like leading up to the day before.
But that's what's weird. Those people have that. Like YouTubers have Skyrim remastered right now, and they're making those videos.
Some of them do. There's always a guy that gets it somehow early.
The issue.
It's not YouTubers. It's like one or two people.
Where Bethesda's drawing the line is review copies.
Yeah.
They're not sending out copies for review. And so like it seems like they're letting people give impressions and previews and whatever, but I think ultimately like the critical voice is what matters, and that's where I think this is kind of an anti-consumer move, because like if you want to know, like I think you put it perfectly earlier, like we get games for free, we're spoiled. It doesn't like for us, I think like it's less of an issue, but like for people who are like they can only buy 1 or 2 games a year, this sucks because they might end up spending $60 in a game that they shouldn't have. And
I mean, Max and I don't even review games, so for me, it's sort of like, do we even have a dog in this fight? But we do.
And it's not just Bethesda though. Like it happened 2 weeks ago with me
Mafia,
and Mafia, 2K.
Yeah, and I think what people associate with, which this blog begins with, is a sort of that Doom scenario where there was that dread of impending doom, no pun intended, where people were like, this is going to be a game because of the way movies are handled. And it was always like, if you can't see a movie early, that means that movie was sent off to die and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. This is where all this is heading.
Flip side of it is
that, but the campaign did. People didn't really like the multiplayer very much.
Multiplayer?
Yeah.
Well, but like that's a major part of the game for some people. Like, you don't care. A lot of people only care.
Yeah. I mean, flip side of it though, like you get YouTubers and Twitch streamers who are getting their hands on this early. There's no actually, it's about ethics in YouTube and Twitch streaming. No, but like that's the thing is people who get something early are going to sign an embargo. But unlike a review embargo where it's like maybe it says don't mention XYZ, they're never going to be like, if you're reviewing this on a score-based thing, don't talk about the following plot points. Like they'll occasionally be like, don't go into detail about these things for the sake of not spoiling it. They're never going to be like, please don't address the fact that level 3 is entirely broken and will crash your system and set it on fire when you get to it.
Yeah.
Like there's never a stipulation with that. However, if people are Twitch streaming it or YouTubing it or whatever, and they've got an embargo being like, hey, you can show this, but don't be critical about the following things. There is no like precedent there. Like no one's really dealt with that. And we had that whole big kerfuffle with Shadow of Mordor and people being paid off for
with
it
the
and
disclosure,
not disclosing that they were sponsored. So this almost feels like a kind of like slightly softer version of that. And I don't it wouldn't surprise me if in the next few months we saw on Kotaku or Gamma Sutra or something, like a piece of paper that was like, hey, here's what people get, along with an early copy of the game, under the stipulation that they're going to not be critical of it.
No, I mean, if we're going to go,
because there are people who work at Target posting pictures from the back room of Xbox copies of Skyrim that they have physically in their hands. So it's like, it is a purposeful, we are holding this back strategically. It's not like, hey, these are coming in hot, so we're not going to have copies.
You're right. This is to remove the idea of putting a numerical value on a piece of product, which I think, like I said before, and will continue to echo until I die, is excellent reader service for anybody looking to spend their money wisely.
Yep.
But here we are.
Yeah. You've been playing a lot of VR.
Yeah, so I went in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, which you can do is groups.com/podcastbeyond, and I asked them, what should we...
Groups.com?
Podcast.com, Facebook.com/Twitter. That's
Groups.com.
No, it's not. Well, what is Groups.com?
Wait, what was...
Don't go there. Don't do it.
Andrew, what was the thing
What's
we saw?
Groups.com?
Moving hunks?
Yeah, but it was
College
Hunk moving, and then the URL was just
collegehunks.com. There was a truck outside.
What's Groups.com?
Oh, there's like a weird...
What the hell? It's nothing good. It's a
There's
YouTube video about groups
weird algorithm?
showing G as a group part 1.
Oh, it's multiple people
Anyway,
making love at the same time.
I went in Facebook.com/group/podcastbeyond, and I said, hey, I play a ton of VR games these days. I put like 40 hours into my PSVR already, and I want to start a new thing where every single week I just go through some quick impressions of stuff I'm playing. What should I call it? We got a suggestion from Beyond fan Tiger Bauer, which I really just want to name this segment because it's better than anything else. He said we should call it What VR Playing? And I love that so much, so we're sticking with it. Number 1, Bound. It goes for $20. Marty, you played this. You reviewed it for IGN, right?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
You liked it a lot. Can you tell people what Bound is? Like,
It's
quick heads up.
it's by Plastic, who are the developers of Datura and Linger in Shadows, which are these weird sort of PS3 experiences.
Yep.
But this is it's a 3-4 hour 3D character platformer where you play this ballerina in this very abstract world, going through a series of. It's less about the challenge and more about experiencing this world and these things that are after you. There's a little bit of combat, a little bit of exploration, but it's mostly about an amazing sense of movement and sort of taking in the emotion of the world.
Yeah, and what I really like about it is that it continually flashes to the story of this family where things are sort of going awry, and you realize that the ballerina is escapism. And if you're listening to this being like, I'm not playing a game about a dumb ballerina, think about the player movement and control and fluidity and animation that you would find in somebody like that.
It's one of the
think
best
about
feeling
that.
characters I've ever moved in a game.
Like, just idly sort of spinning around and moving is incredibly fun. Now in VR, which the VR mode they added for free, is really, really, really cool because the sense of sort of depth that you have in the world is awesome. The entire background of this universe feels like a sort of like Winamp visualizer.
Yes.
It's really cool. The only thing that I found kind of cumbersome is the locked camera, which you can switch. It's almost kind of like the original Resident Evil, where you'd walk into an area and be like, oh, the camera's here, except you had a little more dynamic control. So don't think like, Super Mario 64, Ratchet and Clank sort of camera controls, but it really, really works.
It works as a 3D character platformer in VR.
Yep.
I think the camera works really well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm super curious to see, because I just from watching you play it, like I haven't played Bound at all, but like visually just standing behind someone, it's gorgeous. And I can't even imagine being immersed in that world. Like that sounds
really,
cool.
really works.
And it's cool. The VR thing's just a free update, so if you already have the game, it's free.
Especially the flashbacks to what the family's going through, because you're sort of like a fly on the wall in a gigantic kitchen, watching some horrific stuff happening. I played Pixel Gear, which is a first-person arcade-style shooting game. It feels kind of like Area 51 without any of the kind of impending doom of plastic monsters eating you. It's Minecraft style art. I can't really recommend this one. It's $9. It's like the kind of thing that you would probably throw a few quarters in an arcade, but otherwise it's kind of passable. If you're looking for like
Brian, $9 is 9 whole Sacagawea dollars.
That's true. You could do a lot with that.
Is that lady still on money?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could put them in a sock and hit yourself in the head with it.
Sacagawea?
So it's all right. I mean, if you see it on, I have a feeling this is gonna be one of those games you'll get for free on PlayStation Plus in a couple months. So look out for it then. And number 3, Tethered, which just launched today. It's $32.99 or $30 if you have PlayStation Plus. This is one of my favorite PSVR games so far. You basically play a giant in the clouds. It's a god game. We're overlooking this sort of floating rock flotilla where these little gremlins are hatching from eggs from the sky, and they start building little cities around you, and you have to basically assign them. So you're micromanaging different things to help them build this world. one of the reasons I really like it is because you actually tether them to jobs by selecting them and then looking at what you want them to do, and then they'll walk towards it. So it uses head tracking, which is really smart. The deeper I got into this game, the more dark and morose I found it to be, which I actually really love. You build a bar eventually so that the gremlins can go get drunk.
You love bars.
Me. The gremlins walk around and they go like, eventually after working really hard, they're like, I really need a beer, and a beer icon pops above their head, and they go to the bar and they relax, and then they come out and they're happy again, and eventually they want more beer. And there was like 3 characters I was playing last night. I couldn't find anything to do with them, so I just kept putting them in the bar, and then they'd stand outside of the bar, and after like 10 minutes they'd be like, I want another beer, and I kept putting them back in the bar.
It's me, you, and Sean.
Yeah, exactly. One interesting thing I found out is if you don't assign a gremlin anything to do, he begins to get sad. And if he stays sad for too long, he starts walking towards the edge of the world, which I thought was an idle animation. But it turns out they commit suicide.
Jeez.
Oh my
So if you don't give
God.
these gremlins things to do, they kill themselves,
So
literally.
it's almost like a Lemming / Pikmin /
Kind of, yeah.
black and white.
It's sort
Yeah.
of a slower Pikmin-esque. There is some combat. These slugs kind of come up from the side of the world that you have to fight. It's really, really gorgeous. It does that really great third-person PSVR thing, which I'm falling more and more in love with, where it feels like you're just a giant sitting in this room on this world with these characters. So I really like it. That's what VR playing. Thank you, Tiger Bauer. We'll be back next week with more VR impressions and
That's
more
awesome.
Dracula impressions.
I'm super curious to hear as stuff comes up, because I do think, like, I really hope PlayStation Plus eventually starts folding in some of these VR experiences, because I think a lot of people don't want to pay $5 here, $5 there. Like, I think hopefully it'll kind of bring in more exposure.
I
to
totally
smaller
agree.
games.
I realize there's something like 25 or 26 PSVR games in the store right now, and 4 new ones launched today. Crytek's putting out Robinson the Journey within a matter of weeks,
that's right.
which is going to benefit from PlayStation Pro. So we'll see how all that shakes out. So
Yeah.
Plus there's that Eagle game that Ubisoft's making.
Eagle Flight, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
Scrawl,
actually really
the
fun.
game.
I had more fun with that.
Did you play that?
At like E3.
I really want to try that and just fly up the Eiffel Tower.
I'm really excited about that one game. Look at your feet; they're damn huge.
Yeah, that's
You
a
just
good
look
one.
at your-
Yeah.
Look at your feet.
Clown
they're
Shoe
real-
Simulator.
real big.
Yeah. And now it's time for Rapid Fire.
Really quick.
What do you got?
Breaking news.
Super quick. They just announced that
Andrew Goldfarb.
it's announced that Sean Levy will direct the Uncharted movie. So there is movement. That's the first
Sean
official.
Night at the Museum trilogy Levy.
But more recently than that, he did direct a bunch of episodes of Stranger Things on Netflix.
Oh, that's good.
That's
Which
cool.
were actually
All right.
really
That's
good.
cool.
Yeah.
Man.
Also, The Internship and Date Night.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that it is crazy that him being attached suggests a lot about the tone of this movie to me.
Yeah.
So maybe it is more.
Do you
of
like
that.
Luke Wilson?
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe it is more of that like caper.
Stranger
style.
Things had tons of like very dramatic set pieces and cliffhanging moments where the
Yeah,
children were literally
yeah.
climbing giant crumbling walls. So
Yeah.
this will be
I
great.
hope Barb plays Nate.
I look forward to
All right.
reporting 6 months from now when he leaves this film.
I mean, the exciting-
and Seth Rogen is reattached,
Yeah.
only to get too high to make it.
The exciting thing will be casting. I feel like until we know who is playing Nathan Drake, and then obviously
Is this?
Elena and Sully.
Is
Nathan
this
Drake will
movie-
be played by all of the Stranger Things kids tethered together in a
Wearing a
trench
trench
with
coat.
one trench coat over them.
Is this movie like the equivalent of when people like are unemployed and they're like, I'm consulting, I'm doing some contract
Yes.
work, and
Yeah.
it's like,
I mean-
I'm attached to the Uncharted movie.
This is the 4th officially announced director for this project, which is
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
David O. Russell was one of them.
David O. Russell, Neil Berger,
All right.
Delicious.
Seth Gordon.
Okay.
Anyway,
Fun guy.
it's time for Rapid Fire.
Yep.
Groups.com, the #1 website for groups. Now go in the Facebook group, Podcast Beyond on Facebook, just like Vasily Sonkin did. And he said, has a game ever ruined or almost ruined your life?
No,
Really?
it's a video game.
I mean, yeah, I've never had that like World of Warcraft thing where I like abandon friends and just play 600 hours of an MMO or anything.
You never like almost dropped out of a class because you were playing too much of a video game?
Oh wait,
or-
no, I probably actually did ruin my life. Well, look at, I have a wonderful life. It's
Yeah.
a good time, but like,
Almost.
I definitely,
Keyword.
I definitely did not really do very great in my high school math class because I sat in the back corner and just competed playing Tetris on the Game Boy. That's
Yeah.
like
a lot of drug wars
my
on my
senior year
calculator.
of college, I skipped a lot of classes to play Modern Warfare.
I did this. I did the same thing in college, but with GoldenEye. Just skipped a ton of I was just like, oh, it's fine.
I guess I was junior year actually.
So I was playing Phantom Pain I think it was probably last year or this year. I'm still playing that game. Who cares? That game never ends. But yeah, like I was fighting the skulls the first time where they're just all like running around that stupid air base and they're just being real dicks. And like I'm fighting them and I'm just like, I don't know how to fight them. Apparently you use shotguns. Apparently that's the way you do it. But I'm just like freaking out because they're scary and I'm fighting all 4 of them. They're running around their rollerblades.
I hate those guys.
It's a really bad fight. I don't like that boss fight at all because they're all made of farts and clouds and stuff. And Jen's sitting next to me and she's like, I'm like swearing at the TV and I'm just really into it. And she's like, hey, there's like a man outside our house in the sidewalk and he's just like pacing around. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably fine. These bad cyborg boys. And I'm like fighting them. And she's like, can you like do something about it?
There's currently a home invasion.
And I'm like, it's probably fine. He's just standing there. It's a sidewalk. What do you want? And she got so mad at me because she's like, there's an actual enemy outside, but you're obsessed with these enemies in your game, and you're just running around and hiding. And I'm like, it's Metal Gear. You're supposed to run around and hide. We had this big stupid fight, and the man walked away. It was fine, and I eventually beat the skull, so everything worked out, and my life was not ruined.
Yeah.
No one broke into my home and killed me, and my wife did not make me leave. So,
Thank God.
I played through a bunch of games on my ex. One of them was Catherine, and I ended up...
Do you mean your ex or the game?
The ex. My ex, Catherine. But no, I very much leaned towards blonde Catherine, and she very much wanted me to lean towards brunette Catherine. So we got in a little fight there.
A little Betty and Veronica
moment, yeah.
I really wish they would make that game.
And then we also played Super Mario 3D World. The entirety of it as Peach. We really grew to like Peach, and then when I unlocked Rosalina, I immediately switched to Rosalina, and she saw that as infidelity and called her the C word.
Yep.
She called the Space Princess
the
Rosalina
video
the
games
C word.
almost ruined your life.
Yeah.
So my fiance she's an obsessive little gremlin of a person. I love her, but she will just. I got her when I went to Japan with Mitch. I got her Persona 4 before I left, and I was like, this will keep you busy. And she's like, we'll see about that. And I got home, and I was like, honey, I'm back from Japan. I've been gone for 10 days. And she's like, hold on. I've got a waifu. And I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. When I got my review copy of Skyrim way back when that first came out, and I was playing it.
Remember when we got review copies of Skyrim?
Those were the days.
Before the game.
And I was like, this is a pretty cool game. You might like it. It's kind of like it's like Zelda, but you can get real weird and creative with it. And she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, yes, I like this game. And she would I'd have to kick her off. And I'm like, dude, I'm playing for work. And she's like, no, I'm playing. And I'm like, you're in dental school. You have to pass the test to become a dentist soon. She had to postpone her dental school boards because she was too addicted to Skyrim to study for them. She had to push them back by 6 months.
Wow.
Dental school boards are like the bar. That's like law school test. That is your big final last boss of dental school. And she's like, I'm a lizard, but also a wizard. I've got amulets. Time to go build a castle. And I'm like, don't play this game anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's getting remastered, and I need a second PS4. Otherwise, my life will be ruined. Skyrim, welcome back.
Yeah, I tweeted about this yesterday, but I got in my first fight while wearing a VR helmet last night. That was hilarious. I didn't take it off the entire time, and it ended with both of us laughing because, my wife got really mad at me because we had plans for one thing, and she was like, I actually made another plan with my friend for that night, and I can't. And I was like, we're supposed to do this, and we're supposed to do that. And I just turned to her, and I had a PSVR on the entire time. I was just like, honey, you have to commit to this. If you said you're going to do this, you can't not do this. And then, you changed at the last minute. We're only doing this because we were supposed to do another thing. And she was like, well, I said that I would see my friend that night, and you're mad at me because she wanted to get dinner with me. And I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not standing for this anymore. We have to commit to the plans. And she was like, I can't take you seriously with that stupid thing on your head. And I started laughing, and she started laughing, and she was like, you didn't take it off the entire time. And I was like, I'm committing to this. I'm a New Jersey stubborn idiot Italian male, and I'm going to wear a stupid VR hat the entire time while we argue. And that's the end of that. Stone Cold said so.
Johnny Moronic. Coming to CBS this fall.
Alex Patton says, why do you think that gamers have such a hard time seeing how two competing franchises doing well is good for both of them?
Because gaming is an inherently competitive medium.
Example, people endlessly fighting over Rise of the Tomb Raider versus Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. I think part of it is that people will do everything they can to justify how they made the right decision when they bought a console 3 years ago.
Well, and it's also last gen, possibly more than ever, really encouraged you to back one horse.
Yeah.
It was hey, on our system you get this, this, and this, but on the other one, and there's always been first party exclusives, but I feel like it got a little dirtier with third parties.
Yeah.
I feel like now it's calmed down a little bit.
Yeah, most games are homogenized.
Yeah.
Also, people do everything they can to convince themselves that they shouldn't spend $60 on something. you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the answer to that. We got a couple more, but we're actually gonna do a very special thing right now.
I was going to say, Howard Zander...
Do you want to answer this one? This is a good one.
I have a good one-word answer for it.
Howard Zander Shelfer says, do you think Sony will do anything else portable to give the Nintendo Switch any competition?
No.
No.
I think they'll make iOS games.
Yeah.
Yeah, they already announced that they are.
Yeah.
And like it's also that thing where like they have that ecosystem in place. Like honestly, like they right now it didn't catch on, but if you want to, there are a billion cross-buy, cross-play games.
Stop
Hold
it.
on,
We
you
haven't
gotta
said
read.
anything yet.
Come
You
on,
gotta
Max.
read.
You're so bad at this. Read who gave it to
It was under.
It's on the.
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, what's happening? Hold on. What's happening?
Sorry. We got presents in the mail.
You can, if you want to send us presents that we will unbox on air, you can send it to 625 2nd Street, 4th floor, care of Beyond, any of our names, San Francisco,
This
California.
little mailroom gremlin over here. There's a box in there.
I was going to talk about. We got a present.
£5.
This is from Jeremy McTire, who sent us 5 pounds of gummy bears because.
Hold on.
He wants us.
What kind?
Haribo.
Are they the? They're not the light ones, right?
Oh.
Do you know about these?
Yeah, they make you poop your.
Okay. There's a certain type of Haribo Gold Bears that gives you just insufferably hardcore diarrhea.
No, I think this is regular
think
core
they're
diet.
They
legit.
seem regular. Yeah.
You're just gonna
Hold
have
on, wait, I've seen a
regular
lot of cop movies. I know how they do this.
I think it's just
No,
gonna
that's
be,
good. That's pure.
It's gonna be regular.
Jesus. That is a
All right.
loud big bag of gummies.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
you
you
want to
really-
open the other one?
I thought it was gonna be
You
marbles.
gotta hold it now. I really smell those gummies. Whew.
Oh yeah, it's a real sugary smell.
All right, so
I'm
we
gonna
got
eat those
another-
gummies, so it's gonna be very exciting.
Thank you for Jeremy. Is that his phone number?
Yeah,
we don't
we
need
can-
his phone
we can
number.
call him. We
You don't
can
have to
call
give
him
us your
and
phone
text him.
number.
All right. Oh boy. Nicole Holt sent us a lovely huge package.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Heineken.
So this is a lot of words here, and it's in cursive, which I haven't learned yet. Brian, I saw that pizza cutter. I knew you had to have it.
Oh
Um,
my God.
Marty and Andrew, feel free to mix and match your policeman. Pokemon. I tried to set which ones you would like. What?
Okay,
A lot of the hat was kick-ass, and so are you. It felt right. There's a hat for
that's
it's a
great.
Corona hat.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Nicole, thank you so much. I can barely read most of these words. You have lovely handwriting, but I'm a simpleton.
Nicole got me a.
The Pokemons are hiding in the little.
Nicole got me a Star Wars lightsaber talking pizza cutter.
What? Pokemon.
That's a weird thing. That's a weird to call that talking.
Oh my God, there are a bunch of Pokemons.
This is a nice Star Wars blanket.
This is awesome.
Is this a mouth guard?
Max is feeling sick, and so we can put a Star Wars blanket.
Wait, why
in,
is there a mouth guard in here?
just in case you fight?
Yeah, why is there a mouth guard in there?
Wait.
Anyway, this is awesome. I can't wait to cut pizza with a lightsaber. I'm super happy about this. So thank you so
It's a
much.
weird show.
Oh, this Pikachu's very cute.
I'm honestly
Did you get a box
confused.
of Pokemans?
Yeah,
Is this
great.
seriously a mouth guard in here for, like, grinding your teeth at night?
yeah. Don't get into fights.
All right. Nicole, thank you for the... Also, because
This is
I'm
awesome.
an anxious man, she gave me a plush blanket with a stormtrooper on it.
Yeah.
Good. Now you don't have to use the one with the animal face on it anymore.
Yeah,
can
I
have
don't
this
I
like
don't
that.
have that
coin
anymore.
purse.
I lost it.
We'll use this coin purse. I'm gonna put various trinkets on here on
Did
my.
you got a coin purse?
No, they were.
No,
yeah.
Marty and I are going to split these Pokemon.
Guys,
Okay.
thank you so much for listening. If you would like to follow us all on Twitter, I'm Max Scoville. Marty is McBiggity with two G's and two T's.
perfect.
Brian is Agent Bizzle. Andrew is Garfep, and this is a weird show. It's like a little bit of
yours.
Christmas every week. We get little toy Pokemon. We're sort of adult men, and sometimes we're bad at it.
We also might get tons and tons of diarrhea. So we'll let you know
Well,
next week on
that's-
Diarrhea Watch
There's
2016.
always a chance of that. There's always a chance of more diarrhea.
There's
than we
always a
planned for.
chancey.
No one expects diarrhea.
not a chance in here.
Unless you planned for it. What did you already break it?
No, the thing comes out so
You
you can
town
clean it, you
fool.
dolt.
Okay, I'm the doll. You broke a pizza cutter on this show. Anyway, it's
not broken, see?
Head over. Great job. Stop doing that. Head over.
You don't like Star Wars?
Head over to shut up. Head over to facebook.com/group/podcastbeyond and go say hello to everyone.
And remember,
May
classic
the Force be with
Star Wars.
you.
Trick or treat.
my favorite Darth Vader quote.
And
what he
tune in
says
next
when
week
he's like-
for a very special guest. Lisa Lampanelli will be on the show.
That's not true.
Oh,
No, that's not true.
Eliza Lampoons.